Hey out there, we are doing Sunday with the Universe, and we're less than a week away from Halloween. So I want to talk about Ouija boards, spirit boards, angel boards, and how do we keep ourselves in a frequency and use the right tools so that we know that we are contacting high level energies and beings that are coming through versus opening ourselves up to darker energies, trickster energies, chaos energies, and portals. So it's my belief that Ouija boards themselves create portals. And this is because of the mass amount of stories that people have about, they used a Ouija board and now there's stuff happening in their house. They can feel an entity in their home. My grandmother, so her and her friend, so my grandma and her friend, so two couples, they built a business together. Well, the men would go out and they would go out on the ambulance calls. It was an ambulance business. They had one ambulance, but the ladies, they would stay home and they would play Ouija. So my grandma and her friend, that it became a regular thing. And if you start using these tools regularly, the energy becomes very clear, right? So you can grab your plachet, and that's the little tool on the Ouija, and it'll start moving for you. And the more you use it, the faster it goes, the more clear that connection. And something happened in, of course, it was the last session they did, but something happened that was so freaky and so scary that my grandmother would never talk about it again. She burned the Ouija board, and all we know is there is this story that she took to the grave with her. Even though I asked her a couple times what happened, she would not bring it up. So she clearly didn't want to reopen that door. But she's not the only one that I've heard a very similar story from. And so my belief is that a Ouija board is actually set up as a portal. And there are some structural things about a Ouija board that draw this energy, right? So this is an angel board. This is not a Ouija board, even though it's similar. We're using it to get answers. We're contacting different beings, but this is not a portal. This isn't something that's going to open up a dimension and pull in low-level frequencies into your home. So this is just a tool. So that's why I'm trying to explain to you the differences. One of them is the shape. So right here, it's round. So what we get is a spiral energy. We get an energy that can move through here in a way that it's not going to be a chaos energy. It's going to be smooth and it can roll through here. Whereas a Ouija board, everything is set up as a rectangle. And what you get is you get jagged energy that's moving through your board, and at the corners, it's the same thing with your house. If you can round out the corners in your house, the energy just it moves a lot easier. It's a lot smoother. It feels better, and it's the same thing with your boards. So this is just one way. Also, what is your board made out of? Ouija boards are made out of like kind of an MDF, and I'm not sure what they're even made out of anymore. I haven't touched one in over 20 years, but I do know that when I make mine, my guides have given me a very specific list of woods that I can use. Oak isn't good. Black walnut isn't good. I can use camphor, eucalyptus. There are certain maples that are good. This is a maple. This is box elder maple without a fire through it. Fire meaning the red. And then, like birch, stuff like that. And what we're looking for are woods that have a similar frequency that we're trying to use. Some woods are going to be way too grounding. So So the shape matters, the material matters, intention matters. When you sit down with your board, what is your intention with your board? Are you just allowing the board to be in charge? So that was me when I was like 18 years old. I was like, ooh, let's get answers for my future. And I sat down with a Ouija board and a friend and asked some questions. We got some movement, but the answers weren't very clear. And then it was, we started getting some good movement, and then it's like it changed, things shifted. It's like a different energy came in. And I was giving all the power to the board. I wasn't like, hey, I'm trying to use this as a connection to my guides. I was like, hey, like, okay, whatever I connect to is good, and just give me some information. So this is what we do a lot of the time, right? We're like, oh, the board has the answers and it's in charge. But if you do that, you're not strengthening the connection. You're just allowing it to like free form wherever. So that means whatever wants to come through can come through. When you use an angel board, you're setting an intention. Like, this board is only to connect me to my guides and my angels. And this is a tool to give me answers that I can't hear, as, you know, as like our intuition is so deafened as humans. And so these boards, not only are we getting information from our guides, they're also tuning our intuition. Because as you use them and you start to feel like you'll ask a question and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I think it's going to go to no. And sometimes it'll change directions, it'll go to no, but you start noticing those subtle energies. And that's really what we're doing, is we're tuning our intuition so that we can feel those just subtle, very subtle energy changes. And I make these boards, and this used to be a giant trunk in my backyard. So this has gone through lots and lots of processing. You know, we take it down, we make slabs, and then we make it into boards, and then I go smaller until I get to something like this. And so this is a way that I keep the energy high. I'm constantly feeding it love and high frequency energy. If I'm in a bad mood, I don't mess with them. My guides have told me, like, no stones on them. I can put resin on them. It's not going to affect the energy, but I can't intermingle woods, because what we're doing is we want clear energy. So if I'm intermingling woods, now all of a sudden my board is chaos. So I can't have like this section be camphor and this section be eucalyptus, because what we want is clarity. Same thing with your pendulums. So this is a very common pendulum. So it's this is a stone on the bottom of a chain. Pretty common. Every single kind of stone you can find in a pendulum. But my guides have said that this isn't the best way for clear energy, because what happens is whatever energy your stone has is actually influencing, right? Well, that makes sense. Where if we have something on here that has its own little energy and we're trying to get the board to come through with its energy, there can be a mismatch. And I'm not saying that they never work, but I'm saying that my guides have specifically said no stones. They've also said no wood, because I had this big bold idea. I was like, oh, I'll make boards and then I'll make the pendulum out of the same wood and then they'll be able to connect. And my guides are like, don't do that. Let's not do that. So, so what I end up with is, in order to just get the very subtle energy, this is what we ended up with. They said metal. They wanted just metal. So this is just, look, it's so simple and so basic, but it picks up the very minute energies that are coming through. Because the weight is another thing, right? We're working with subtle energy forces, but this is one that I threw, I'm just throw my earring on there, but I put my earring on the end of it because it's something specific and special to me, and it has my energy in it. And it gives it a little bit of weight, because sometimes these light ones, they start going crazy, just kind of like that. The energy will just start flowing through them, and I'm like, okay, where are we going with this? Where are we going? And it'll be vibrating here and trying to swing at the same time. So I kind of go in between, depending on what's happening. I'll use this for the weight if the energy is just a little too strong. And the main thing that really made me want to do this today is because last night the lights would not stop going off in my house. So after my father passed, my kitchen light started doing some tweaky things. Okay, fine. I have a little talk with him. Okay, you gotta knock that off. And then after my grandmother passed, the healing room, the light goes on, like, like yesterday, it wouldn't stop going off. I have to wake up in the middle of the night, turn the light off in the healing room. So my intention today is to find out if they're gonna, if my guides are gonna let me know who is the energy that's coming through. So I'm gonna open this up and see if my guides will give me that information. Because I have asked before, and they're like, no, we're not telling you. And, that's for different reasons. Also, maybe I'm just not ready to know. Like, some things freak me out. So, and when I do this, I try to stabilize my arm in some way. I usually use my leg because I often just sit on the floor. I know not everybody likes to sit on the floor or is comfortable on the floor. So if you're using your board, you want to stabilize your elbow, because holding it up here, it's fine, but you get more movement from your hand, and you want to make sure that you are not influencing this as much as possible. And that comes from your internal state as well. You need to really, it's almost a meditative state. It's where, you clear your mind, because your energy definitely influences this, whether it's through a subconscious wiggle or whatever. So I'm going to move this down so that the board is much more obvious. And a little sage here. A little sage doesn't hurt. Do I think that demons are scared of sage? No, I don't think demons are scared of sage. But it's kind of like a situation where you filled the space with a specific energy, and now, you walk into a party, and then you're like, ooh, this place isn't for me, and so you leave. That's how I see sage working. Okay, so I'm connecting to the board, and it often will just go in circles around the center and kind of get everything set up and aligned. I do have a downloading icon on here, and that's if it needs to stop and gather more information. So, it's going to ready. I didn't even ask, but normally I say when you're ready to answer questions, head over to ready. So we're at ready. Okay. So last night the lights would not stop going on. Yeah, it's starting to move pretty quick. Okay. That's kind of annoying, right? Are you willing to tell me today who it was or who is in my house that is playing with the electricity? Okay, it's going to yes. It's not switching to no. Feels pretty strong. Okay. Are there more than 10 beings in my house? Okay, no. Are there more than 5 beings in my house? And I'm not talking about physical energies. Okay, so there are not more than 5. Okay. Are there 3 disembodied energies living in my house? Are they all beings that I know personally? Yes. Okay. Well, just to check, are there any beings in this house? It's already going to know. Are there any beings in this house from stuck energy? This is a 100-year-old house. No. Are the energies in my house family members? My family members specifically. If one of them or two of them is John's family, please go to no. Okay, picked up some speed. So yes, it is definitely my family. I have 3 of my family members living in the house with me. Is it my grandmother who turns the light in the healing room on all the time? So it's going to yes, but it is slowing down a little bit. So it makes me think that it is Grammy most of the time, but there's somebody else with her. Are all of the beings my different grandparents of mine? Okay, we're going to no. Is one of them my father? Okay, all right. So that's good. And one of them is Grammy, right? Okay, so who is the third? Is the third one from my mother's side? Okay, it just picked up a lot of speed there. Is it my grandfather from my mother's side? Oh, we're going to no here. It's all right. Okay, so it's not my grandfather. Is it my grandmother from my mother's side? I twitched a little. Okay, I like this. So I have both of my grandmothers and my father here as, okay, all right. So I'm kind of getting the information that after they passed, they stepped over to be guides for me. Okay, we're picking up speed, so that's a hard yes. Wow, that's so nice. Yeah, all right, well, thank you for the information. Wonder if anybody else has any questions. Indigenous land of okay. Ooh, blue sparkles. Nice, Wendy. That's interesting because I am a carrier of blue energy. Yeah. So that was awesome. I was super glad to get that information. I'm gonna so I'll tell a story about my my mom's mom haunting me in my other house. So I lived in a little 1-bedroom place. I was saving up my money. I was gonna buy my house. I was getting everything paid off, and my smoke alarm started going off, and I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, so I replaced the battery. Okay. It was great for one day, and then it started going off again. And I was like, damn it. So I just yelled at it, and I was like, Grandma, if that's you, I need you to stop doing that. And it stopped. But then a couple weeks later, it started up again. So I took out the battery, which was still a pretty new battery, And then I lived quietly until I had to move, right? So I got to put this stuff back together. So I put the battery back in the smoke alarm, and it immediately starts going off again. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, okay, Grandma, you got to stop this silliness. And then I move into my house, and I had a few things of hers, and oddly, like I can't remember. It was like a lotion that she had or something. I had it sitting on the edge of the bathtub, and I'd only been there. I don't even think I had been sleeping there for a month. And somewhere around midnight, I hear this big crash, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I turn on all the lights. I'm like looking around and freaked out. I live by myself. I don't have super close neighbors. And what had randomly fallen over was my grandma's lotion had tumbled into the bathtub. And so I'm like, okay, I know for sure that she's here. And then, I've had inklings that these three people have been in my life. Like I said, like a couple days after my father passed, the kitchen light started doing these weird things where it would just turn on, or it was on and it would just flicker. And then I was telling John this story about me being a shithead when I was a kid, and about how like conscious kids are. So my dad had a friend, his name was Steve, and Steve's girlfriend was his girlfriend was a stripper. And so on the down low, my dad and his girlfriend, and also other Steve, they would kind of make fun of her. They would just call her tacky. She was a stripper, whatever. And as a child, I really hated the hypocrisy of it. Mind you, I'm like 5 years old, but I hated watching the adults talking shit behind her back. And so Steve and his girlfriend are walking up the drive. They're coming to our house, and I'm like, oh look, it's Steve and Tacky. To just blow that out, right? Is really, I know it's kind of a fucked up thing to do, but I was telling John that story, and then his grandmother's clock, that is a wind-up clock, and it would ding on like the hour and the half hour. It started dinging. And I was like, ooh, my dad just heard my story. We have to look at these things. These are not random. These are our loved ones. They're coming through. They're letting us know that they're with us and they're here. And the world is just so much bigger than they have taught us. We're not taught to live in love with life. Like when you're brushing your hair, like, you're brushing out the negative energy that was there, and you're moving energy all the time. But we're just like, la la la, we're in our head, we're like brushing our hair. But if we learn to live with more intention, we will see more magic in our lives. And I would love to just spread more magic. Just live in the magic of life and spread the love, because there's so much out there, and we, the people, have to come together right now and use our spiritual tools, because we are in the thick of it. We see it in our government. We see it in our collective. And our vote is actually so much bigger with our energy. We think like, okay, if you're going to check a box for a vote, that's your vote. But really, your vote is here. So if you're constantly projecting negativity on either side of the government, what we're really doing is building a shit government. So if you can't look at it and think something positive, just turn your focus, right? Because attention is intention. And we are amazing, strong, powerful energy builders. We're generators. And so let's start using that. And love everybody. I love you guys. Mwah.